Hey guys, Charles here. Let's do AP Macro 2024. This is set 2. This is set 2. Number 1. RSI Pharma has a patent, a legal barrier to entry. This makes it a monopoly. On its newly developed eye treatment that cures common eye problems, RSI Pharma is currently earning positive economic profits and is producing the profit maximizing quantity. So they want us to draw a correctly labeled graph for monopoly, show the profit maximizing quantity, the price, the ATC showing profits labeled, and obviously consumer surplus. So pretty simple for A. We just got a downward sloping demand curve and a marginal revenue curve that is under that demand. Recognize that this is not just demand. This is demand. It is average revenue. It is price. If this is your MR, this is your DARP, demand, average revenue, and price. And here's marginal revenue. Price and quantity on the axes. Let's draw in a marginal cost curve. Now, what we recognize is where marginal cost equals marginal revenue, where marginal cost equals marginal revenue, that is profit max. And we're going to show that quantity right there. That is what we're going to call Q star right there. Now, this is your price curve right here. So all prices on a monopoly have to go from profit max straight up. That is your price on this monopoly right there. So we'll show that as P star. That's all done. Our ATC just needs to be able to show a positive economic profit. So that ATC just needs to be below the price. I could have drawn it there or there. Doesn't matter. As long as that ATC is below the price right there, we're golden with profits. I'm going to change the color just a little bit here to make sure we can see our profits. So we're going to come to the ATC. Remember, this is the price we can charge for the good. This is the cost. That's what this vertical line right here under the ATC represents, is the cost of our goods, right? So that whatever Q star is, that was the cost. That's what we can charge for the good. Our cost is less than what we can charge. We can definitely see that all of this rectangle is profits right there. All of this area down here would have been total costs. Anything below the ATC to the left there, draw a line, all of this would have been total costs. Here's profits. This whole rectangle would have been what we would have called total revenue if they asked us. Total revenue is just price times quantity. So the whole rectangle is total revenue. This small section right here is profits, and this section below it is total cost. Little extra stuff. Consumer surplus, we should just know consumer surplus. The way I always keep consumer surplus is it's everything above the price, but everything below the demand curve, right? So if I had to draw you a supply and demand curve, you would recognize that that's the equilibrium price. It's everything above the price, but everything below demand. Here's our demand, here's our price. We recognize that it's all of this triangle up here is our consumer surplus. So we would just shade that in and we're perfectly golden. I think we got everything. We got price, we got quantity, profits, total cost, total revenue, and then consumer surplus right there. Easy enough. Some of that we didn't need, but that's cool. We're talking about extra stuff here. Good. Suppose RSI Pharma wants to charge a price that maximizes its total revenue rather than profits. They want us to show the revenue maximizing quantity and label it QR. So this is one of the big 4 things you should just know about any monopoly graph. You should know where profit max is, where MR equals MC. That's profit max right there. You should know where allocative efficiency is, where price equals marginal cost. That is allocative efficiency. Right here, where price equals ATC, that is what we call break even, right? If a firm is going to break even, that would be right there. And right here is our 4th big spot, where MR equals 0 is what we call max revenue. So if instead of maximizing profits, they want to maximize revenue, they would produce that quantity right there. Where MR equals 0, we'd go up. If we had to show them the price, this would be let's call it PR, and this would be QR. So we really just needed that little spot right there. We're golden, tech, all done. At QR, identified whether the demand for eye treatment is elastic, inelastic, or unit elastic. We should just know anytime where we're at max revenue there, that is what you and I would call unit elastic. That is the only spot where they're going to be unit elastic. Everything below the demand curve here is what you and I would call inelastic, as marginal revenue is negative. Everything above that spot on the demand curve, all of this section of the demand curve would be called elastic, as marginal revenue is positive. So where MR equals 0, we go straight up. That shows where unit elastic is. So we are showing it being at unit elastic. Everything below this section of the demand curve, any output on this side of profit or max revenue would be inelastic because marginal revenue is negative. Any section or production on this side would be elastic because marginal revenue is positive here. Again, that's important to know. They don't ask it a lot, but we do see it. But it's easy once you know what you're looking for. Suppose now that RSI Pharma engages in perfect price discrimination. On your graph, show the lowest price that RSI Pharma would charge. I'm going to draw a separate graph here. We'll go up and show you where it is, but I think you already know. Remember DARP here. Now, with our usual graph, we would have marginal revenue below demand. But perfectly competitive firms charge everybody the highest price anybody is willing to pay. Because of that, marginal revenue becomes demand. So now, as soon as they said it was a perfect price discriminating monopolist, I can get rid of that lower marginal revenue and recognize that this all becomes Mr. DARP right there. That is all marginal revenue, demand, average revenue, and price. If I bang in my marginal cost curve, I recognize that the same holds true here. This firm is going to produce until marginal revenue equals marginal cost, where marginal cost equals. Why would they produce anywhere else, right? This is their profit maximizing point for a perfectly. The thing to know is just that they charge everybody the highest price they're willing to spend. Because of that, marginal revenue and demand are the same thing. They're going to end up producing at their new profit max, which just happens to be where price equals marginal cost, which is allocative efficiency. What we recognize as price discriminating monopolists always produce at allocative efficiency. That is the only good thing about a price discriminating monopolist is they do produce what we call the socially optimal quantity. They do produce the allocatively efficient amount. Well, they do that because they can make more profits. They can charge everybody the highest price they're willing to spend. That good would be charged that price, that good would be charged that price, etc., 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 etc. Until we get right here, the last unit they charge would be right there, P2, and this would be probably Q2 here. What would happen to consumer surplus? We'll recognize they're charging everybody the most they can spend. So there is no consumer surplus. Consumer surplus is 0 for a price discriminating monopolist, as is deadweight loss. So there's no consumer surplus, no deadweight loss. You should just have those nice and tight in your head when you're talking about price discrimination monopolies. Again, if we went back up here, we just recognize on our graph A, we find where allocative efficiency is and recognize that right there would be P2 because we know price discriminating monopolies always produce an allocative efficiency. One more down here. I'm going to move it up just a bit. I almost forgot that one. All right, suppose instead that their patent expires, will the demand become more elastic, less elastic, or not change? This is a fairly stock question for what happens when a monopoly turns into, let's call it a monopolistically competitive firm. Now, as it was a monopoly and it had a patent, The patent expires, and now more other firms can produce this same good. We recognize if there's more firms producing this good, there's going to be more substitutes. If you recognize there's more substitutes, you know the demand for this good just became more elastic. And that should make sense. And our explanation is always going to be about substitutes. So the more choices we have, the more elastic our demand. The less choices we have, the more inelastic. So the patent expires, more firms enter due to the profits, right? Due to profits, firms are going to enter here and they're going to make some of this good. That's more substitutes. That's more elastic demand. I think we're golden there. All right, guys, I think that's the end of number 1. Keep working hard. You're doing great. Be safe.